I'd love to educate. So,
Okay, perfect. Well, over to you.
no, thank you so much. So, again, thank you everyone for inviting me to participate in your meeting today. I love working with fellow equestrians. We all speak the same language, and I love to educate. That's one of the things I enjoy doing most is, knowledge is power. So, the more you know about stuff, the better decisions you can make for yourself, because we're all different and have different wants and needs. And I hope this helps you a little bit deciding if you have what you need or if you should change things or what have you. But most of all, to protect you while having fun with our wonderful, willing servant animals. So I have a presentation to share, so I'll do that, and I'm going to share my screen here. And those of you that have um, your cameras, hopefully you can see. If you can't see, whatever. But
Yep,
oh,
we can see
is that good?
if you want to try to make it full
Oh,
screen,
I'm definitely gonna do that. Yeah. No,
then
I'm gonna
yeah, and all if any questions come in through the chat or if anyone raises their hands, then I can stop you and interject. But so
sounds good. Please do. You act as a mediator there. So, equine insurance. What do you know? What should you know? What do you need? It's important. It's very different. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So, I'm just about, first of all, what is insurance? Some people don't even really understand what that means. Some tips about each type, focusing on equine farm ownership and management, equine owner insurance, which is another aspect we're going to talk about, medical mortality. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. And don't repeat others' mistakes. Some claim stories about what other people have done, which you don't want to make the same mistake. Retirement and legacy planning, not going to really go a lot in there, but just a big plan. And really, I'm not going to say much more on this, but also areas to look into are disability and life insurance for who's going to take care of your horses and business if something happens to you. So basically, what is insurance? It's an equitable transfer of a risk of a loss. So, you pay a premium and the insurance company says, in exchange for that premium, we'll take the large risk off your hands and hopefully it won't be a devastating loss for you if something happened. Little jokes here. I like to put some humor in all some of this dry stuff here is, let's see how here it is. Your policy doesn't cover floods, earthquakes, or the acts of God, because I don't know if you realize it, but one of the perils that are out there are acts of God. So there you go, play on words there, acts versus acts. And that's again what insurance isn't designed to buy you a new roof. It isn't designed to replace your appliances. It's designed to replace something from a peril that are listed. So policy, when you have an insurance policy, that's just a contract. So the difference between what is insurance versus insurance policy, that policy is what is your contract, what are the inclusions, what are the exclusions, and what's covered, what's not. Boring facts. Everyone thinks, oh, I have two houses right next to each other, they're identical, or two farms next to each other, they're identical. Why am I paying this and somebody else is paying that? Well, it's not that simple. There's a lot that goes into a premium rating. So you might have more content, you might have some fancier stuff. The house next to you might look the same, but maybe one's got a finished basement and a whole bunch of extras inside and a custom kitchen, and yours doesn't. And things like that. And it's you've got, the type of coverage, the amount of coverage, the limits of coverage, the premiums then calculated by that for each peril and by the limits of coverage you choose. In fact, so many people I know, I just did one this week. They had a $560,000 replacement cost house. That's what it would have cost to replace their house. And they only had $300,000 in liability. Um, and their house on the market was worth like 785,000. So if they only have 300,000 liability, that means they could have had someone go after the balance of their house. So you want to make sure those kind of things are covered. Believe it or not, age, medical history, if you're talking about life insurance, even your job, credit score, and your zip code are all factors in credit rating. Credit score is definitely a big one. Sometimes I will Actually, I try to always do this. I will run the risk score, as we call it, on both the wife and the husband because I've had cases, so many cases, one about 3 months ago, where by using one or the other, I saved them $400 a year. They've been married for 38 years. Like that makes any sense. I can't even explain it. It's just how it works. So something to know about some of the premium rating stuff that goes on. Obviously, claims and violation history are important and deductible choices. The more you sign up to take care of for claims that would only be bigger, the lower your premium. So those are just some general things to know about insurance rating, no matter what kind of insurance it is. A big tip I want to give you, if you're changing insurance companies of any type, always cancel the policy because if you just let it go for non-payment, that will actually be marked on your record as a non-payment cancellation. So always make sure you call up and cancel if you're changing, and don't let it just cancel for because you didn't pay the renewal premium. That's a big one. All right, major types: auto vehicle, horse insurance, property casualty, life, disability, health. These are all ones you're familiar with, I'm sure. The big one for anybody that owns property is, your property and casualty, and that goes against your home and everything in your home. It can also go against your business, your equine operation. Any of that is covered under property and casualty. Does anybody know what the difference is between home and farm insurance? Any guesses? No? So home is, you're just looking basically like a cookie cutter. You got your house, your 2 or 3 cars, and you're maybe have 10% extra for other buildings that are there. And it's just personal liability. Whereas farm insurance has personal liability that follows you around the world, like all personal liability does, but also it has business liability and it has farming operations liability all in one package. So you don't need both a homeowner's and a farm package. You just need the farm policy. It covers it all. And I'm basically answering the whole question, the next one I have here, which is why is farm and business liability so important? Because you're farming, you're doing equine operations, and we all know that as much as we love our animals, they can do some silly stuff and cause some damage, and we would be held liable for that. Question 2, you can hold up your fingers if you want. How many horses do you think a regular homeowner policy usually covers for liability? Anybody have any guess?
0.
Anybody check their policy? It's becoming 0 more often, you are right. But there's some policies that still will cover up to 3,
Oh, wow.
but only on property. And not everybody, not many people stay on property. So that's just something to know as well. But more and more companies are just saying no farm animals whatsoever. So we have our home insurance, our property insurance, and you have your auto vehicle insurance. You've got your regular car. Us horse people tend to have a truck and trailer in the midst there. Or you could be like Fred and have a couple of those. And, you've got a lot of responsibility there. And, these are heavy equipment type of stuff. So one, you'd have regular personal auto insurance for a private vehicle, and the other one, you'd have a business auto policy for your commercial vehicles that are farm use. It covers everything from liability and medical expenses to repairing and replacing the vehicles themselves. Do I know the difference between comprehensive and collision? This always gets people. So comprehensive is everything other than collision except for being hit by a deer. Believe it or not, being hit by a deer, it comes under comprehensive. So all your glass coverage, everything like that's comprehensive, whereas just running into something is collision. I'm not going to go too much into some of these because I don't want to go into great depth, but there's also state of New Hampshire requires us to have uninsured motorist protection. That's important because 1 in 16 people in the state of New Hampshire I'm sorry, used to be 1 in 16 people in the state of New Hampshire are uninsured. Now it's like 1 to 11. So if you get hit by someone, there's a 1 in 11 chance that that person will not have insurance. So it's really important to have that uninsured motorist protection if you ever wonder why you're paying for that, because that means if you were insured with my company or whatever company you have, they're going to pay for the repair and stuff of your vehicle, then hopefully go after that person that was uninsured. But in the meantime, you have coverage. Sad part about that is you have to pay for the deductible on your part. Why do you need a commercial policy, which is called a BAP, which is business auto policy, or CAP, which is a commercial auto policy? Why do you need that for an equine farm operation? Because you're talking about heavy equipment, more liability. I mean, you load that trailer full of horses and you're going down the road. You all know how dangerous that could be. And you could do a lot of damage, whether it was your fault or not. A lot of damage can be done with these heavier vehicles. So not only do you want something, you want it repaired or replaced if something happened, but you really want to have that liability on the trailer itself, not just on the vehicle pulling it. Because yes, you are legally covered liability wise when it is hooked up to an insured vehicle. But if you only have 250,000 liability on your pickup truck that you're pulling with, and you're pulling a 4-horse trailer and sadly something happens and you end up doing some major damage and causing the accident, that $250,000 is going to be gone pretty quick. So it's really better to have a separate policy for that because we know how heavy those vehicles are. Here's an example, not to be scared, but reality. I mean, like what a horse and truck and trailer can do. I mean, I'm sure what happened here was somebody pulled in front of the truck, and it takes so long for us to stop. And unfortunately, in most auto accidents, it's the truck goes over the other vehicles. If for some reason you were found at fault, there was some serious property and probably bodily injury, if not death, involved here, and you'd want to have those higher coverages. Workers' compensation. I don't know how many people, anybody have farm workers on their property? If you don't, I won't go into it, but it's important to know that workers' compensation does also be required for volunteers or if you have working students. So just check with your agent if a scenario ever comes up for you. A lot of people think, oh, they're independent contractors. I give them a 1099. Well, if you need to make sure they have their own insurance then, because the state, when they audit you, if they don't have their own insurance, then you could end up paying for them, even though you 1099 them. They've been really enforcing that, state of New Hampshire has in the last couple of years. All right, more humor. Pony goes to the doctor and tells him, Doc, I think I'm dying. I have this terrible sore throat. And the doctor assures him, it's okay. You're just a little horse. You gotta love these little miniature ponies. They're so cute. All right. Does homeowners insurance cover horses? We talked about that already. Most cases, the answer is no. Why? Because homeowners is just for basically, like I said, the cookie cutter dwelling and, with attached garage and you have maybe a little shed or something or whatever. It's not designed for farm risks. Now, in more than ever, the other 18 carriers that I represent, they are getting rid of the whole farm where they used to cover several horses, 1 to 3 horses. Now they're calling farm animals livestock, and they're just saying, regardless of what you're doing with them, they're not going to cover it. And they'll be writing your policy an actual exclusion saying not covered. So know your policy if you don't have a farm policy. Why is it so important? Well, you get your bodily injury. You've got, horses being handled. You got bystanders. You got falls, kicks, bite. Guys all know what can happen most unexpectedly, even with a horse you've had forever. So those liability claims, even if you're not found at fault, you still have to defend yourself. So the nice part about having a farm policy and having that coverage is you will be defended by the policy and the legal team even if you're found not guilty. Whereas, if you don't have that kind of coverage, then you could still end up paying attorney fees. Property damage, we know what damage horses can do, fences, buildings, crops. This could be on your neighbor, could be at a show. You can be held liable for it. So what kind of farm policies are there that really apply to horses? Well, there's one my favorite, and I don't mind. Fred, you don't mind if I say you have this one, do you?
No, 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 no.
So this is what Fred and Michael have, and it's basically, it's a small scale farmer, which that doesn't mean that you're a little farmer. Just, you know how big farms can get. Or horse owner, and you have another income source. That's your primary source. You're not a farmer full time. We jokingly call it the homeowners on steroids. And it's just great because it usually means you have a nicer house than your barn. We do have exceptions to that, but that's usually the case. So it does give really nice coverage for the home. And then, of course, you can either schedule your other buildings depending on what their value is, or the policy automatically covers for 10% of your home value. So, if I'm looking at a home with one of my horse owners that's like $2 million, well, that they've got 10% towards any other building. So if their barn isn't over $200,000, we don't even have to list it. It's sort of covered automatically under that, which is really nice. If someone has an indoor arena, and then, you're talking, the numbers go up from there, well, then we'll schedule that for the additional amount. But it's a really good fit as long as you don't have anybody living in an apartment, you don't have any lesser's risks where you're leasing land or part of another building on your property. You're not leasing horses. You have 20 horses or less, and you have farm income under 100,000. If that's your fit, then you get a lot of just sort of nice package coverage, including the Equine Select endorsement, which gives you a lot of protection off the property. You can even board. You're allowed to board up to, like I said, as long as 20 horses or less. You can be boarding, you can be training, you can be breeding and selling. I don't know why they have the issue with the leasing of horses. I've been fighting that for a year now, and I think I'm winning, and they're going to change that. You can give lessons, but then they have an issue with leasing the company. So we're working on that. It's just educating people on what that is. And it's great because it follows you on and off the property. So that's a great one that my company has, and a lot of other companies have something like that. They call it an estate farm policy. Then we
What
have, oh, go ahead.
quick question, what do they consider leasing a horse? Like, is it a long-term lease or like someone gets on your horse and rides for the day?
If they ride for the day, that's considered more of a lesson, as long as you're not doing trail rides, because trail rides are really like nobody's covering those anymore. There's been so many lawsuits and injuries. For years, people were calling a trail ride a lesson, and they got away with that for probably 10 years, but that's been cracked down on big time. And now I don't even know who covers trail rides. Somebody probably does. My company won't touch it. So leasing. Right now I'm leasing a horse, and so the lease has to be 30 days or longer, and that's considered leasing. So short term. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you don't follow under the leasing, I'm sorry, leasing. I got leasing in my head. The country estate, then you go to the next level, which is the standard special farm package. And this is great. It's the same coverage. You just pick and choose. You build it instead of it being sort of a pre-packaged type of thing. And basically under that, you're looking at, your house, your buildings, your personal property, which includes livestock, farm personal property, I should say. Also, that includes your machinery and equipment and all that kind of stuff. You can still schedule stuff on a farm policy, which, you can have your jewelry, furs, coin collections, all that kind of stuff. That still can be put on this policy. It does everything that a homeowner does and more, much more. And then the liability, like we've started at $1 million. Liability is cheap, right? Liability is the big what if. It's not replacing something. It's not fixing something. It's just a big what if. So that's like your least expensive cost on policy. It's always your property that's going to cost you more money. But these are the perils, if you're able to see them, is like this is standard for any policy, whether it be farm or not, up to peril 6 and 7. Well, yeah, we go right through that one. But basically, the fire, lightning, vandalism, explosion, aircraft, smoke, collision, your weight of ice, snow, and sleet, your buildings themselves, your contents in your house, and any of that scheduled personal property. What the farm policy has 2 more perils, and that's peril 9 is your livestock. If you include your livestock for coverage on a farm policy, that will cover everything from electrocution, drowning, miring, attack by dogs or wild animals, accidental shooting, earthquake. Believe it or not, your house isn't covered for earthquake, but your animals would be. Flood, also not covered without a flood insurance policy, but animals would be. And loading and unloading on a trailer, which is really important, because as we all know, loading and unloading on a trailer can definitely incur some liability and damage there in that space of time of just getting them on and off. And then finally, peril group 10 is farm machinery. Any questions on these?
I was just trying to think of when we did our waiver, because I know I talked to you a lot about trail ride stuff
Yep.
at my place, and I just can't remember. I know we kind of did something with the waiver.
Well, it was all different because you had people bringing their own horses.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of the terminology we used on the waiver, but I'll maybe I'll.
Oh, you're right. No, we did. What was it you used? It was good. It was really good. It came out clean because you want to be clear when you're doing these waivers, which I'm going to talk about. You don't want to leave any gray areas. You want to really put it in black and white, literally, to make sure that people understand what they're signing up for, and that you don't get hit in some gray area if something happens. But I should clarify that, yeah, if someone comes over to your property with their horse, that's fine. I mean, that's their horse. That's their problem. It's talking about like if you had people coming, like you go to Mount Washington, right, and go on a trail ride to Castle in the Clouds. That's what I'm talking. I don't know who does their coverage. Probably Lloyd's of London. I think it's down to like Scottsdale and Lloyd's of London, the only ones covering that. It's very expensive. So, and I think some people just don't carry it. They just do a waiver, but that's a big risk.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No problem. So, Division 1 is your home. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, had to find my mute button, unmute button. Question on the trail ride thing. You're talking about having a farm where you're taking a trail ride out on your own horses, right?
Yes, if you're riding your own horse, and you're just going on a trail ride, that's between you and your horse. It's your own liability. The trail riding I'm talking about is we've had a lot of barns in the past offer trail riding as someone pays so much to jump on one of their horses and go off at the trails.
Right,
That's what
right.
we're talking about there. And it just, people are I actually heard some people talking about going trail riding on a horse a few months ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's so funny. You just jump on and they know what they're doing." And clearly, it's the first time they'd gone and stuff like that. And all they gotta do is have something scare the horse, which we all know how easy that can be, no matter how bomb-proof. I hate that term. Every time I see that advertised, bomb-proof horse. I'm sorry, any horse with a bomb is gonna react, and that's what we're talking about.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that because I have a group that I am an officer in. We run several trail rides over the years that where we have the trail rides, and we had to change the insurance company that we operate with. We're with something called American Equine Insurance Group. I guess
Yeah.
so that's handling our trail rides now. So that's what we do.
Now,
Right.
that's all their own people with their horses?
Right. Yeah.
So did you get insurance as a riding club? Is that what you got?
As a riding club, yes, yeah.
Yeah. We
Mhm.
do riding clubs. That's different. I
Okay.
do several riding clubs. I cover the New Hampshire high school equestrian teams. I handle a lot of 4-H stuff. I handle because we do some other policies to cover some other stuff that the standard 4-H policy doesn't cover. And what's the other big? I've got well, Michael knows this. I got the fox hunting group, and I'm getting ready to do a shooting group actually. Um, and so we cover riding groups for sure. It's just
Okay.
having the policy. It's more than your own individual. You want the club to have the policy,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to clarify what you were talking about, that's all.
Yes, and that again, that's not, you know, you having a bunch of horses tied up to a fence waiting for people to come in off the public road and pay you $50 to go for a trail ride on your property. That's the
Right.
difference. So no, good question, very good question. Is that clear for everybody?
Yeah.
Great. All right. So when it comes to your home, um, things to know that I find a lot of people aren't aware of, there's three types of values for your home. You've got your retail value, like what's your real estate agent going to sell it for? You've got your tax assessment value, which is, what you're going to get taxed on. And then there's replacement cost. So it's important to know that insurance companies are only interested in the replacement cost, because even if your house was higher or lower in the retail area, we're not replacing the land. We're just building the footprint up to replace that home or that barn. So that's an important difference to know when it talks about replacement cost is, we use calculated software that says how much is the labor, and based on all the data you put in about what this house currently has or this barn currently has, what is the replacement cost of it? So that's what is part of that limit on your policy is what would it cost to rebuild it? What includes contents in a residence? Think of looking at, if you can see the pictures, you take the roof off, you shake the house upside down and whatever falls out. Those are contents in a house. All that's included. I tell all my clients, walk around your house, in barn, everywhere, if you have, and take a video. Take a video. You can even narrate the video and then put it in the cloud, because if something happens, you might forget a bunch of stuff that you have. It's easy to do. We collect stuff, especially horse people. I have so much stuff I still need to get rid of. But yeah, it's important to, if you just go and take that video and then put it in the cloud, and if something happens, at least you'll be able to recall what you have. The company is not just going to write you a check for your contents. You do have to do some justification and documentation on that. Because on the other flip side of things, insurance fraud is very real. So we have to protect for that too. Now, do you need contents coverage if you're just renting a home or apartment? Yeah, you do, because you may not need to replace the property, but your contents are not covered by the owner of the property. So you want to have your own contents coverage, and you want to have your own renters. I do a bunch of renters policies for people that are, $158 a year, $175 a year for $30,000 coverage or something. But even the contents, as important as those are, because that all adds up quick, the liability, you want to have that personal liability on there that follows you around the world to protect you. So buildings, we talked about residents, buildings, so many farms have barns and arenas that are nicer than the home. Nothing wrong with that. And then you got your fancy stuff like your big entrance gates and stuff like that. In fact, Fred, I can't believe you haven't done an entrance gate yet.
No,
That's
not
got to
on
be
the
on your
plan.
list. No, it's not on your plan.
Not yet.
Those are so cool. And yeah, so those things are expensive if something knocks them down or whatever. You get your round pen, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those on a farm policy, they get evaluated instead of using the house software to figure out what the replacement cost would be. we use another program called Building Valuation System, and that determines what the replacement cost would be, or actual cash value. That's the great part about a farm policy is you can say, hey, this building, if it fell down, I wouldn't replace it, or I'd replace it with a building half the size. So you can actually dictate stuff like that on a farm policy and decide whether you just want actual cash value or a value that would be just for what you'd replace it with, or just say, I don't want to cover that policy. If it fell down, I wouldn't do anything with it, so I don't want to pay insurance on it. You can also do that and just exclude the building, which is really nice. And that's you can also on the farm policy choose different deductibles for each building. You don't have to have the same deductible that you have on your house. You don't have the same deductible that you have on another building. You get a lot of freedom and personalization that allows you to make your premium and everything fit what you can do. So that's really nice. And I sort of alluded to this already, but the difference between replacement cost and actual cash value, anybody know the difference? So replacement cost is just like it implies, like you're replacing it just like it is. But actual cash value would be like, what's this building? Maybe it has some depreciation, some wear and tear. You could choose to insure an actual cash value and just get a certain number for that building. With the crazy thing with COVID, this is sort of going outside of Division 2, which is buildings, but we had so many tractors that their value went up like more than people paid for them. So actual cash value was a really good thing because they would have gotten more money than if they for what they paid for it. So maybe they paid 15,000, but now that tractor was worth 25 because that's where the market was going.
Have you seen that with horse trailers because of the aluminum and
Yes.
everything?
Oh
Because
my
some of the
gosh.
horse trailers are like people are selling horse trailers for more than they paid for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's fair game, right? I mean, it's whatever someone will pay for it. And if you can find some comps that show that this trailer is now selling for this value, then that's what you would get. You would get. So that works for you and against you. It works against you like with your regular vehicles, because everybody knows it's the truth. When you drive off the lot, you lose at least $5,000 to $10,000 value, depending on what the type of car it is. And that's why so many people get the gap insurance and replacement cost insurance that you can do on auto. So with your buildings, you can decide, obviously it's cheaper, less money to do actual cash value for maybe something that's sort of deteriorated rather than do replacement cost, especially if you're going to replace it with a smaller building. But the big thing to know about the buildings is you are required, no matter what company you're with, to carry what's called an 80% co-insurance. And what co-insurance means is if the building's evaluated at 250,000 based on the software we use, and you agree that everything in the software is correct that's been entered, you have to at least insure it for that 80% of that value. So because the premium's based on that, and they're just trying to be fair to collecting premium versus what you're going to insure it for. So that is one rule that's there. Worst case scenario is if you don't have the 80%, then you'd have to, they'd take it out of the replacement or whatever. But it's good to know. You might see co-insurance somewhere in the reading of your policy, and that's what it means is you have to carry a certain percentage of value on that building is your job. So then we have Division 3, which includes a whole bunch of stuff. It's all your machinery, anything with an engine that's on its own power. It includes that includes UTVs. We carry UTVs that are not registered on a farm policy. If you have it registered, you go on the road, then you put it on a business auto policy. So registered vehicles can go on a farm policy. Unregistered vehicles can go on a farm policy. Tractors, UTVs, snowmobiles, ATVs. What can't go on a farm policy is once it's registered and legal for the road, it has to be on a vehicle policy. That's just insurance law that requires that. Also included is your animals and your hay, your supplies, all your equipment, all that kind of stuff. That all goes under Division 3. Two types of coverage for Division 3. There's blanket and specific. Anybody know the difference between, everybody familiar with blanket coverage? Sort of a visual there. If you throw a
Everything's
blanket,
covered.
yeah. Well, so it's like a number. So let's say I'm going to put farm machinery with a blanket coverage of 50,000. Then you don't have to list everything. You just have $50,000 worth of coverage for farm machinery. But when you have a fancy tractor or something, like if you had this tractor in the picture, you want to list that specifically, especially when you get a whole bunch of equipment on your farm and you sort of are trying to keep track of, do I still have that or did I replace it? Then we'll put serial numbers and everything else. Also, if you have glass cabs, I don't know if you have glass cabs tractors, but boy, when that glass breaks, it's so expensive. And you want to have that glass cab coverage on there, which is a separate endorsement to pay for that. Because most of these companies with the tractors, if you haven't experienced this yet, they have to come pick up the tractor, bring it to wherever they service it, and repair it, then bring it back. So you get like a $1,500 delivery transportation cost on top of the glass replacement. I don't know anybody that does it on site anymore. So that's
I think
been a
that's where
change.
where I was texting you last week. I think that's where when like we went from our regular homeowners insurance to you, um when I started looking at the exclusions, it kind of really became clear because the exclusions were very clear about if anyone got hurt related to farm equipment or doing like even if like moving manure, if it had anything to do with like farming activity
Yep.
related to equipment, then it wasn't covered. And then that like rolled into like in the definitions, basically a business function. And then it was
Yes.
all kind of excluded from there. So then I was like, okay, that we are not covered clearly in
And
these
you don't want to,
activities.
and thankfully you never had to find that out.
No.
Um, but I was at the Big E. I think I told you this story. When the fire broke out in the Barnstable that we had down there. We had 14 horses down there at the show, and Um, it was crazy. A lot of people in a hurry found out they didn't have the right coverage for being off premises. For some people tried, like one of our riding group friends, they had all their show clothes burned.
Yeah.
I mean, like the really expensive stuff. And some of them were able to get a little bit of coverage from homeowners, but most people didn't have any coverage for that because they didn't realize it didn't cover off property, and it was also farm related. So I felt really badly, and that's one of the reasons I love educating. Uh, that I was these people didn't have the coverage and they lost a lot. So that was really sad because the whole event was scary enough as it was. So important to know farm policy, it does go on and off property. The coverage for most items, and some, like with horses, you have to say, do you go off the property? So you either pick the never go off the property or go off the property. That kind of awareness, you do have to make sure you classify that correctly. So that's the difference between blanket and specific. We all know how much tack costs, and again, take an inventory, have pictures. It just adds up so quickly. I mean, um, I saw a presentation that someone did, and they had an English saddle averages $750. I was like, what world are you in? I like,
Yeah.
like my last dressage saddle was $4,500. So I'm like, no, and they can go up from there. I have some friends that do, carts. The carts are $6,000 to $25,000. I mean, then the harnesses, it just adds up so quickly. It really does. Um, and so, grain, food. Think about it. If you just got a delivery from a hay and then you got a big food delivery, I mean, for grain, all that just adds up if there was a peril and you lost all that stuff. So it's important to keep track of those numbers. We talked about the different perils with the livestock. Um, Again, this would be, if you list them, this would be covered on your property or at events. It does go off property as well. And the question that comes up, chickens and rabbits, the little stuff, they are not covered. So, but everything else, your sheep, your goats, all that kind of stuff, can be covered under Peril 9, which is livestock. Now the question is, does that mean medical costs? No, it does not. This is just mortality for these particular coverages. If it's, if the horse has colic or something like that, you need that other policy, the mortality one. This is how we do the coverage on the policy. If you were looking at this, you'd see your personal liability. You'd see the liability for owned horses, off-premise exposure, to get an idea of how that's listed separately on there. And you list 4 in this case. That division 4 we talked about, scheduled personal property. This goes like the homeowner's part. So you get your jewelry, fancy show saddles often get listed. Electric bikes are the big thing now, since those go into the $4,000 or more range. Do a lot of e-bikes. Or I have some clients, they do competitive biking where they have those aluminum bikes. They're $10,000 a piece and they travel all over for them. So we list those separately. And it's a good thing we did in the one client I'm talking about, because they forgot to tie it down. It fell out on 93 going to an event on the highway, and it was pretty much destroyed. So they were happy they had that one on there. And then of course, like with the horse part, you get your carriages and stuff like that. What's nice about the Division 4 is this is where you state a value. There's no deductible. It's like, this is how much my rings cost to replace. It's my appraisal or invoice to show you how much it costs. And there's no deductible. It's you just get the stated amount that you have on there. And that's the difference. When you schedule something like that, there's no deductible. The idea is that you get what it costs, some agreed upon amount so that you get that money to replace whatever it is. Finally, the big one that we need to focus on, the liability. So what does liability cover? Bodily injury, property damage, business liability related to farming, such as selling horses, and breeding, selling, leasing, anything to add, lessons, medical expenses. I've often been asked, why is medical expenses listed separately? Well, if we can just pay somebody $5,000 to cover their injury, that's a lot better than going the lawsuit route. So medical expenses are listed separately just to have that coverage to avoid a lawsuit. Could be first aid on the scene. Also, that big one, defense. There's a case going right now where some horses, they died months after they left a facility, and the owner is being sued because they died like months after they left the facility. Will they be found at fault? Not my business. If they are, then of course they have insurance, it's going to pay. If they are not, though, they still had that cost of defense. They still have the insurance company's attorneys defending them. So even if they come out, how could you possibly say this was my fault, and then the judge rules or jury rules that they're not guilty? They still had to pay an attorney. In this case, they didn't, because the insurance company is paying for it. So again, liability is a big, important coverage for you to have. Also, anybody that was doing farm chemicals, transportation, that kind of stuff, it covers everything that is reasonable that you could be liable for. It does not cover, negligence or, accidental, yes, but like if you decided to deliberately hurt somebody, well, that's going to be the exception there. The big thing with horses is you want to have that boarding coverage, because if you are boarding, you are then taking, for that money that you're receiving from your boarder, you have care, custody, and control of that livestock. And it's not just horses that are boarded, it's also cows, goats, I see it all. And you are taking responsibility for that animal. And if for some reason, I'll give an example. I had in a barn, their employee left, didn't secure a gate. Well, the horse got out of the gate, out of the paddock, went into the barn. Coincidentally, they had taken some beet pulp and put water in it, as we do to soften the beet pulp. But they, instead of locking it in the feed room, they left it out in the aisle. That horse went, ate all the beet pulp, colicked, almost died. That was the fault of the barn because two things happened. One, they accidentally left the gate open, the horse got loose, and two, the horse almost died. So because they had care, custody, control of that livestock as a boarder. Important things to know. Um, Even things like home daycare coverage, our farm policy, I actually have several clients that do in-home daycare, have some camps at their property. That's all covered too, but you have to list it. You have to itemize it because we're not going to charge someone who's not doing it. So you have to make sure you list all those different items there. So here's your question. If ice built up in your barn and a horse and a rider slipped and fell, could you be responsible for injuries to both? What do you think? Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say yes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you're responsible for trying. There could be a freak thing, but say, you have people come or you're a boarding barn. And in fact, I just recently talked to one of my clients about this, about, you've got to shovel that pathway and put salt and sand down because if somebody falls, they might just say, "Hey, that I did not appreciate falling," but they also could end up with something serious where they could go after you for medical bills. Not everybody wants to sue when something happens, but if you end up, you slip, fall, you break your hip, and you end up with X number of dollars in damage, and you're out of work, you might have to do that to reclaim some of your lost wages or things like that. And that's what some people are doing. Um, so it's just a reality. It's a very high litigious world that we're in right now. So that care, custody, and control, I can't say enough of it. Anytime you take possession of another animal, you have that's not yours. You have that care, custody, and control. It is optional coverage, but shouldn't be optional if you're doing it. If you don't ever take care of anybody other livestock, then obviously you don't need it. But you become legally obligated to pay as a result of injury or death of that livestock. And you can have a hefty figure on that one. We have different numbers that you could pick, like on our policy, you can pick different limits. Like say you have a barn full of horses that you board, they have boarding there. Do you do an average price of $5,000? Then that would be $100,000 limit. There is a limit on top of that. So these are things to know about, and it's why a lot of boarding barns are requiring people to carry their own mortality insurance, and even medical. It's not a bad thing to do. So boarding horses, that's a big one. I do a lot of horse barns that board. Again, just being smart about it if you board horses. It's decent income. It's not the income it used to be. A lot of people are really struggling with the cost of feed and hay and shavings now. But if you're doing that, make sure that, you have the right liability waivers in place. So you want a boarding contract. In our case, we won't even insure you if you don't have a boarding contract, because what keeps friends friends and family are, putting it in writing and having everybody agree to what the terms are. I had someone say about a year ago, "Oh, the shorter the contract, the better." No, I don't care if it's 6 pages. If you need to itemize that, all the details that are special to your facility, you should do that, because then there's no gray areas. There's no, "Well, I didn't know about that," or "I didn't think I have to tell you about that," or "I assume this." That's what we see too much. And it's like, if you just did more detail, you could have maybe avoided any claim at all, instead of having to fight about it. So be very careful about protecting yourself. A lot of my barns have no drama contracts now, and it's laughable in one way, but it's sad. in reality that you have to put something like, if you cause drama or create a toxic environment, you can be asked to leave. They have to do that. There's been a lot of it, sadly. So little details like that can save you. Your agreement's your agreement. Just make sure you have, the right details on that to protect you and enough information. Have permission to call a vet if there's an emergency. Some people weren't doing that. And you can't have a vet take care of, or a vet won't take care of a horse if they can't reach the owner. So it's important to have that kind of detail written into your contract. Day camps are definitely profitable for my clients. They do well on this. You're having horse related activities, crafts, horsemanship lessons, all kinds of stuff. And summer is popular, school vacations popular. It's a great way to have people connect with horses when they're not in school. But same thing, liability waiver, and you absolutely cannot have any swimming, boating, or overnight on those camps if you do that. So, but it's I know a lot of people are charging $650 to $850 a week for these kids to be in these camps, and as you can see, I had $384 for that premium. They certainly made a lot of money on that one. But that's good. It keeps the barn going. Want to keep the barns going. The other liability part, always have that release and home harmless. I hear from many like, oh, you got the New Hampshire law, the RSA that says, that you're protected against recreational activities and equine liability. Yes, that's absolutely true, but you also have to have it posted. And it's been beaten enough times where if they didn't have a waiver, so you just have a person sign a waiver. Everybody's used to signing waivers. Where do you go that you don't sign a waiver to do something nowadays? So just don't hesitate to have that on your property. Just have them fill it out and sign it. Half the time people don't read it. And then put it away in a safe place. I had a barn that left them out, all the ones that were signed, and someone took them and they didn't have any. They lost all their records of all their signed agreements, and still not sure why they did that. But once they're filled out, put them somewhere safe, scan them, do whatever, but they're good. You could have it do it once and you don't have to do it again. So very important to do that. What's not covered? Anything that is very high risk, like caring for a rescued horse but is fine, but allowing the public or other people to come on to take care of the horse, no, can't do that. We don't cover that. We don't do any jousting or vaulting. Our policy doesn't cover endurance rides on premises, but if you have a club or riding policy, club policy, that's different. We don't have that public trail ride we talked about. Operation No Public Trail Rides. And certain types that, I'm trying to think what's another big one that goes, oh yeah, broncs, rough stock rodeos, barrel racing's fine, gymkhana's fine, but even the shooting's fine because it's not like they're actually using real bullets. And as long as it's not rough stock or rodeo stuff, big rodeo stuff. Any questions?
I just wanted to do a quick time check. I think we are
Are we over? I'm sorry.
no,
I'm sorry.
not yet, not yet. But we have till 4 o'clock. You can go until and how many more slides do you think you have?
Not many. I just was going to
Yeah.
say these. So here we go. So this is all just different lists. You have to just tell your person, what are you doing? What are you not doing? That's important. And make sure that's all there. There's other different ORs, but let's talk about one of the big ones I know you wanted me to mention, and I took too long on some other stuff is, what about the single horse owner who boards a horse? This is really important that a lot of people don't understand. The risks involved. You have your horse at a boarding stable. It kicks somebody, it gets loose and does some damage. you're helping out at a barn and you accidentally harm a horse. Things like that, you're exposed to all those risks. And the liability, same thing. What did you sign up to with your boarding contract? What's covered, what's not covered? What did you agree to in your boarding contract? You could be liable for a lot, and how are you going to get that paid for if you don't have insurance, if some accident happened? Also, going off premises to shows, you bring in your horse, you bring in all this stuff. They're in a strange environment. Um, your horse could accidentally hurt someone. It could do damage. You want to have insurance for that. Just like my single professional trainers and stuff, you need to have coverage for that kind of stuff. So if you are someone that helps out, someone that gives lessons off-site, things like that, same thing. You can get a policy without even having a full farm contract. You can just get a liability policy and do all that. So, important things to know. But the final thing is, make sure you minimize your risk for your property. All of you that have horse properties, make sure that you have the sign posted about the equine liability. Be smart, get a certificate of insurance from any instructors that are coming on your property. Make sure they have insurance. Too many times I've had people find out that the person that they thought had insurance, a clinician or a trainer, and it turns out they did have insurance. Well, then your insurance is going to be paying for something. That's not good, and that's not fair. Make sure you have those detailed contracts and liability, manage your manure so that you don't have any pollution issues. All those kind of things are great to protect yourself. And just be smart about the hazards. If something breaks, fix it and make sure everything's secure. So there's a lot. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. One of the things I really didn't go into was the horse insurance. I do cover Markel and Hartford AEIG. That's your medical and your mortality insurance that you can get separately. That's not covered under a farm policy. So one thing very important to say on this. There's a new thing going around with horse mortality. How many of you have horse mortality policies? Okay, very important. There's this equine loss of use. I had an agent for Markel tell me, do not encourage people to get this because apparently to prove it, you have to practically have it on video. So you're paying a lot of extra money. It's very hard to prove. And they can take your horse. If you take the damage money, they can actually take your horse and sell it.
Whoa.
So, yeah, things to know.
I have a question.
Yes.
Boarders insurance. I carry boarders insurance because I board my horse out. I'm not sure that you mentioned that when you were talking about horses being boarded places.
So who's that with? I haven't heard something called Borders Insurance. Is it just
I get
liability?
yeah, it's a liability insurance. It covers in case my horse does any, gets loose from the farm and runs over somebody's property and wrecks up the lawn or something, or kicks another horse or something. I
Yeah.
have boarders insurance. The place where I board at, their homeowners insurance required that I carry that.
They're home. They don't have a farm policy?
No, well, it's just a single barn. It's not like a farm.
If they're
But
boarding, they don't have. I can't believe that they're.
I don't know, whatever the
I
reason.
bet they have a farm policy. They probably do.
But anyway, their policy required that it's not an expensive policy, but it is a boarders insurance. So,
That's good.
In case something happens,
No,
that
that's
my horse
smart.
does
That's very
damage.
smart.
So,
No, good to have. And I know Markel offers $100 additional with their mortality medical policy for liability for the horse. So you can get it that way. If you own multiple horses, get a farm policy. That's cheaper. So
well, it's not my farm. It's where I board my horse out.
but I have clients that have 3 or more horses. If you have
Yeah.
3 or more horses that are boarded, you can get a farm policy.
Okay.
And that covers your home plus the location where they're boarding at. So that's something a lot of people don't realize you can do. It has to be 3 or more horses. But if you do have that number, it's a smart thing to do because you have obviously more liability and risk with 3 horses.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think, yeah, we're at time here. So I wanted to open it up to the group and see if anybody had any specific questions. Dee, did you have any other slides that you wanted to just flash up real quick?
I was just doing, insurance. I love the analogy of a parachute because a lot of times you only need it once, right? And it's just important, especially liability insurance. It's just the lawsuits that people are going through nowadays. The average claims, having an umbrella on top of your regular policy. I'm seeing so many numbers that we've never seen before, like 1.2 million. Everything's 500,000. Dog bites are 62,000 is the last one I settled. 48,000 before that for dog bites where it wasn't like these people were mutilated or something. We're talking like a bite on the leg.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Debbie has a question
Yeah,
for you.
Yes, Debbie.
could you repeat if you own property and you have one extra boarder, maybe two at the most, what is the best policies to use?
So to be clear, so you own the property and you have a couple boarders.
Correct.
Yeah, just get a farm policy. Usually it's less money too. That's what I love about it is I can't tell you, I just did a woman um, who had 6 of her own horses, 2 boarders, and she didn't even have boarding coverage before, and I still saved her like $400 a year on her homeowner's policy. And it was $1 million coverage. So she was thrilled. I had new business. She got a lower policy with more coverage. It covers a lot for often the same or less money.
And so can you re-say what you said about what it does cover? Like if you
For the boarding.
yeah. If you did
So
that, if you got the farm, what does it? The farm
so
policy.
if you own the barn and you're boarding, it covers you for that business activity because you are now conducting a business on your policy, on your property. And the homeowners will not cover that. I would love to see it in writing if anybody thinks they have that coverage, and I'll be glad to say I'm wrong, but I haven't seen one yet.
That was the
Because
other
that's
thing.
business. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
business.
that the language is very clear. Like if they're even if you're like if you have like a farm stand, I think Dee, we
Yep.
talked about that originally. Even if like you're giving away, I mean, in Hampton Falls, they used to like give away extra zucchini at the end of the season, and like that's not covered if someone got like food poisoning and said your farm
Your
stand
zucchini
like
got me. Yeah, it's
poisoned
crazy.
them.
Yeah,
It
no,
is
it
crazy.
is. I have a client who does 2 plant sales a year. That's all she does. She has a little greenhouse. She grows a bunch of seedlings, and twice a year she has seedling sales at the end of her driveway. Not only did I save her money with the farm policy, so she has the right coverage, but it was cheaper than her homeowners. But she's protected because the minute someone's coming onto your property, um, like I have chickens and I do eggs for my neighbors and family. They leave an refrigerator in my garage. That's business. I have now encroached into the business liability because I am selling those eggs. And even if you give them away, the law says that like bartering, people saying, oh, well, so and so works in my barn and I give them free board. That's the oldest type of exchange in civilization is bartering. It's still considered working. It's still considering a liability. So it's not simple. It's not simple anymore. And people are getting hit with these lawsuits. So if I boarded, definitely have a farm policy. If I had 3 or more horses being boarded, I would have the farm policy. I'm lucky for any horse I own because I already have the farm policy with my chickens. I can just add a horse to it and I get the coverage there. Um, Different ways to do it without breaking the bank, but protecting your bank.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys all work hard for what you have and you deserve to
Yeah.
have it protected. I mean,
Well,
unfortunately, there's too many people looking to take it away.
Yeah, no. Well, it was I think great reminder. I mean, I found two things that I just need to refresh upon and get um updated from your presentation. So I found at least two things out of it that I was like, "Oh, I got to get this updated or this done." And so thank you for the good reminders there. But Dee's got her contact information there, and I mean, I ask her a million questions all the time. Like we're on text message basis
Please,
that
please do ask a million questions because
um
I need to sleep at night knowing I have my clients covered for everything they
yeah.
need to be covered, but nothing more. A lot of people
So
say, "Oh, I don't do that anymore." Oh, that's fine. Let's take it off. But
yeah. But I
yeah,
appreciate you coming on and providing this education and what we'll do is it'll probably take a little bit of time, but we'll get it up on our website and our social media coordinator will probably do a little bit of promotion about the presentation and then people can click on it and watch it on YouTube. So, um, but I thank you so much for the updates and any other final questions before I turn it over to Christina and we can kind of close out our annual meeting.
well, thank you all very
Yeah.
much. Like I said, just spread the word. Whether I'm your agent or not, just make sure you're covered and protected and talk to your agent that you have and just have the right coverages.
Thank you very much.
We
You're
sure
welcome.
appreciate this, Dee.
No,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Definitely an
you.
area with lots of questions. So
And I don't mind answering questions. If you just want to ask me a question, just call and ask the question. I don't have to be your agent to do that. We're all horse people.
Yep,
We want to protect each
perfect.
other.
that's very
Thank
Yeah,
you.
kind. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a great
Safe
day, everybody.
travels.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
thank you.
All right. Well, that officially brings us to the end of our agenda. And we're just a teeny bit over time. So we appreciate everyone hanging in there with us on a sunny Sunday afternoon. So with that, I think we'll close out. If anyone has any last questions or comments, happy to hang on and chat about those. But otherwise, we will kick on into 2026 and hope you'll all stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
everybody. Bye, Laura. Bye-bye. All right. Tracy's somewhere there floating around. All right. I will stop recording. Let me see. Let me just make sure I don't